Hi Texao family, it's Armand there for a quick video about campaign and dashboards analytics. So a lot of you have asked this question, so how we can use Google Sheets to build dashboard for Google Sheets. So this actually, what I mean by analytics is not analytics like you could see here. So for instance, this is something we are working on. It's very, very early stages. Actually, it's only on Figma at this moment, but this is something we plan to do for the next version of Texao, which is having an analytics dashboard that will report daily, weekly, and monthly and yearly what is going on all your accounts. So you will be able to click on any of your accounts inside your workspace, and then you will be able to check individually all the statistics with graphs and interaction, number of connections sent, number of follower, tweets, retweets, whatever. So depending on the platform, okay? So this is what is properly called analytics. So far today in Texo, sadly, you cannot do such things outside Google Sheets because the origin of Texao was, after all, to be a Phantom Buster competitor. It was modeled after Phantom Buster. Initially, it was solo automation that do one task, and the USP of Texao was to be able to chain all these tasks together to create workflow out of it. But it's still like Phantom Buster, heavily relying on Google Sheets for input and output. But I will explain in a fictitious campaign, or you can do this and still have some kind of a dashboard that we will create on Google Sheet. So I have a Google Sheet with an input data here with a list of 10 profiles that I will process in my campaign. And this will be the input tab. And then on a separate output tab, I will use the output tab to build a dashboard with all their interactions. So it will list all the profile that we send connection to, and also who are accepting our connection, who are not, and additional details. So I will detail first the campaign that I'm doing. This is a test campaign, very classic example that we can use. So first thing first, I will take data from the Google Sheet, from this tab, as an input. So I will process each of this profile individually that I will enroll in my campaign. After that, I will send them a connection request. After that in the real world, I would use a 7 days delay. And this is very important. A lot of people are missing this detail because usually they don't add delays and then they check who have connected with them. So in the real world, no one will check immediately the connection request that you sent. So this is why it is very important in real world scenario that you use a delay of at least 5 to 7 days and sometimes even more, so that way your prospect will have the time to check the connection request that you send to them. Okay, so this is very important because if you don't add any delay or you only put 2 days delay, most of the profile won't accept the connection and then it will screw up the rest of your campaign. So this is really important to understand that after sending a connection request, you have to add a minimum of 5 days to 7 days or even more to let the prospect the time to reply back or at least check that you send them a connection request and accept them. Okay, so we take the data from Google Sheet, we send them a connection request, we wait 7 days. Then after 7 days, we will check on the list of this profile that we sent a connection request to, who has actually accepted our connection. And then from there, we will conditionally, we use a filter here. There is two ways to do so. I will show you. You can use a filter or routing to wipe out the people that have not accepted your connection. So in the next stage, after checking who has connected with us or not, we will only process the profile who have accepted our connection request. All right. So we will send the first follow-up, which is like a greeting message. Then after the greeting message, we will wait another 3 days. So to wait for a new follow-up, and then we will send a second follow-up, okay, and then we will 3 days, and then we will send we will stop the campaign and we will check. Finally, we will do the last count. We will check again who was connected with us. Why? Because in between, what can happen in the real world, and again, this is a point that many people build flows, but they don't really often think about what's happening in the real world. So when you're sending connection requests with follow-ups, etc., what can happen is that even if you put a 7 days delay, here we will wipe out all the people who don't connect with us. But what happens in the real world is that people who don't connected with us sometimes will connect actually after the 7 day delay. So how to measure that at the end of the campaign. We will choose the end of the campaign as the final, final count. So here we will check if profile, we do a first check after 7 days to only process, use it as kind of filter or router to only process only profile that have accepted a connection. And at the very end, we will use a second check to only process the profile globally. So all the profile, and we will check again to see maybe the profile who didn't accept it initially after the 7 day, but who may have accepted our connection request after 15 days. Okay. And then at the very end, we will push the data to the second tab here with all these metrics. Okay. So here I will detail how I build the flow. So the first step is using DSpice, which is a future replacement of the Google Sheet input here. So before, like months ago, you had only these two options to add a Google Sheet as an input. Today, we have a special model in a recipe. So here you will take this module, which is called, you select the Google Sheet, it's called fetch data from Google Sheet. You have two, fetch data to Google Sheet, which is take data input from Google Sheet. And the other one is the classic one, send data to Google Sheet. This is the second one we will use at the end of the flow. So here I will process the data on the Google Sheet. Then after that, I will send this 10 profile a connection request. So for this, I am using, you click insert variable, you will use the profile variable. So basically what it's doing, that for Spice, it will use the headings as the name of a variable that will be used to process all the profile on this list. So the 10 profile will be used here as a variable, and one by one we will process the profile on the column A. Okay, so after that you use this personalized message. So you write a message, and then here you will insert variable, and you will use the personalization tags. So when we are sending a connection request, actually we are visiting the profile and scrapping basic data from the profile, like first name, last name, the full name, the job title, stuff like that, and the profile. And here we will be able to use the first name, which is the first name tag here. Okay. And then here you have additional options. So here you have an option to only send to second degree connection profile. So actually, this is a way to avoid sending to profile that are in your network already. So this is a safeguard. You can use it if that's match your objective. Here in my case, I know that none are actually in my first degree connection network, so I won't use that. Here you can do an additional check. I never use that personally, but you can do if you want to check if this profile has been correctly sent a connection request. And here you can check if you have a LinkedIn Premium or Sales Navigator account. You can check that box. So like I said, after sending them a connection request, we will wait realistically a 7-day delay. Here I will test my assumption. So here I will actually use a default delay of 5 minutes, but just as an example. In the real world, you will use actually 5 or 7 days. But here I will use 5 minutes just to show you how it works. Okay. So then after that, we will wait 7 days in the real world minimum, and then 5 or 7 days, and then we will check after this delay uh, who has connected with us. Okay. So for this, what we will do, we will use the profile variable from the past module. So basically, when you chain all the module together, the most common thing to do is to use the output variables from the past module. So delays are a pause. It's not really a module that generates any variable. You cannot use variable from there. But when you are chaining spices, basically you will use the previous one, which is the profile URL that we collected on the previous step. So here you will pick a variable, which is the profile URL of the people who send the connection request, which is fairly logical. So here we will, at this stage, we will filter who has connected with us or not. So basically, when you are doing check, when you are checking who has connected with you or not, you have two ways to do so. Okay, so the first way to do so is the one that most people use, but actually it's not the one that I use the most. Basically, you can do two things here. So basically, you will check after 7 days who are connected with you. Here, you can do either a routing, which is a two-way flow, or a filter, which is a linear flow. So a routing, basically, you will use a condition. Let's say if people are connected with you, so if after 7 days people accepted your connection, you will, and if this condition is true, which is very kind of programmer, lingo. I don't like actually how it's explained to the user, and this will change, believe me. But basically, you use the condition if the profile has connected with you and this condition is true, you will trigger a two-way flow. So on the left, if this condition is true, so on the left, if this is a positive route, what I will do, I will send them a greeting follow-up message. Sorry, I will send a message, send a LinkedIn message on the left side. If this profile haven't connected with us, so if the condition is false, which is the opposite, on the right side, we will withdraw the connection request. Okay, withdraw the connection request, and then we will withdraw this connection that have not accepted our connection after the 7 days delay. So this is the classic way to do so. Personally, I have few reservation on this. A lot of people are doing this. The thing that the reason I'm not using this extensively is that it will add on heavier process to your flow. So I prefer first to focus myself on only people who accept the connection, and then I can still collect the people who have not connected with me. But this way of doing, many people do that. It's valid, but I prefer to separate things. So I prefer to do multiple automation for different use case. So I can have a compact flow with the less module possible, because the more module you use, the more dependencies. And when there is a page break, the more likely you have a chance to have a page break. This is when you're scrapping with no code tools. The only issue is that when it breaks, basically it can screw up your flow. And because we deal with dynamic pages, we scrap live data, and LinkedIn is changing data every day. So the other way to do so, instead of routing, is doing a filter. So this is what I've done, and this is my preferred way. So you're not forced to believe me, but this is what I prefer to do, and at least you have the two possibilities. So what I've done here, instead of using a routing, I use the filter with exactly the same condition. So basically what the filter will do, it will wipe all the profile from the campaign that haven't connected with me. So people who don't connect with me after 7 days, I will wipe them out, and I will collect them actually on a Google Sheet. I will collect them on the output sheet, but I don't want to focus on them. I will, from this stage, the only profile that will be processed after this will be profile that have accepted my connection in the 7-day delays. Okay, so I will use the same condition as the routing. So connected Boolean is true, and then after that, all the subsequent tasks will only process profile who have connected with me. All right. So now I will focus on this stage on the profile who have connected with me. I will send a first follow-up message, a greeting message. So here I will use send a LinkedIn message. Okay. And then for the inputs, I will use the tags again. So to personalize my message, insert variable, use personalized tags. I will use first name again. And then I will use the profile or thread URL. So here it will be the profile when you are doing a campaign. Thread URL is when you want to send a message to a specific LinkedIn thread. So what I mean is this. So let's say, for instance, you have a LinkedIn profile. So let me take that one, for instance. You have a LinkedIn profile, and what you can do, you can actually write a message that is corresponding to a message thread. So for instance, maybe I have an old discussion with that woman, and I want to reply only to that chat thread, like a thread like there is on Twitter or whatever. I want to answer inside this conversation, because on LinkedIn you can have multiple conversation with different people and have different messaging thread. But here, what we will do here, it will be different. We will use the profile URL, because we want to send a greeting message to the profile who have connected with us after 7 days. So here, I will pick the profile URL from the previous automation, which is check if profile is connected. Here, I will take this profile URL. Very important to understand also, a lot of people are doing this issue, are doing this mistake, which is taking the profile URL from the send connection request. If you do that, what will happen? You will send actually a message to all the people you sent a connection request to. You don't want that. What you want to do is send a greeting message to only the people who connected with you. And the only way to do so is to take the profile URL variable from the check if profile is connected, the previous one on the list. Because otherwise, if you take the one that is above at the top, it will send a greeting message to all the profile, even the pending ones. So this is problematic because in that case, this is not logical, and you will have issue most likely. So here you have to take the profile URL from the previous stage where we will only focus on the profile who have accepted our connection request. Okay. Then after that, we will wait a 3-day delay. So here in my testing automation, because I will run it and show it to you, I will use a 5-minute delays. Then after that, I will use a second message using the personalization tag again, same thing. And here in between, what I do, even the greeting message, I will use something called reply detection. So reply detection, basically, you just click on this, okay, and then it will happen this variable. You have nothing to overthink. I know it's very confusing for many people. Basically, what this variable is, it's actually the content of the message you sent in the previous connection request. So when you do a connection request, you are sending a message, and we will compare the content of this message with the content of the chat thread between the two messages. So basically, it's a way of detecting if people have replied. So it's a logical argument. So let's say you have a conversation on LinkedIn. You send a message, and then you will send a second message with different message. And what we are doing is that we will compare the content, the text content of the message that we send in the greeting message with the first one. And if in the chat thread, if in this chat thread, for instance, the message is different between two messages. Okay, so here let's say you have two messages. If I have a second messages here, and someone is replying in between, basically that means that the content of the messaging will be different. So what I mean by that is that the way we compare the text content of the message here is that if the content of the message on the chat thread is different than the first one I sent, that means that obviously, logically speaking, someone has replied to me back. So basically, what that means, if there is, for instance, I sent two messages to Roman. Okay, so in between, if Roman was sending me a message in between, that means that the content of this message will be different. Okay, so we are taking the last message on the chat thread and we are comparing that content. So basically, I know that I sent this message, and if after checking back the chat thread, this message does not correspond to the first one I sent, basically that means that Roman has replied to me. Okay, so this is how we do it, which is, I agree, not at all super user friendly. Basically, it's more like a developer explanation of how we do it versus of an easy way to understand how to use it. But the only thing you have to take care of it, okay? So if you want really to use it and not taking care of it, the only thing you do, you check that box and that's it, okay? So here it's a long discussion to explain how it works. But if you want to use reply detection and avoid sending this message if someone replies to a connection request, so if the profile is accepting your connection request and replying back to you before you send that message, because you don't want to send like a robot and send an unwanted message when someone is already replied to you. Basically, you will just check that box, okay, and it will compare the content of the first message. And if that content is different, that means that someone has replied to you, and then this message will be skipped. We will skip replying to this profile if they have replied back to us before we send them the first greeting message. So you send a connection request. If no one's replied, this will be sent. If someone replied, this will be skipped. All right, easy to understand. Same as before, you have the option here for the LinkedIn message to use LinkedIn Premium account if you have one. You can also only narrow down to only second degree, third degree connection and not sending to any first degree connection on the list. Then after that, after the first greeting message, we will wait another 3 days. We will not spam them immediately. We will wait 3 days. And then for only those who reply to that message, we will send a second follow-up message. So let's say you send a connection request. The connection request has been accepted. But in this case, they didn't reply the first greeting message, they didn't reply, and then at this moment we will send a second and last follow-up asking them to answer us back, and if they don't, then we will stop the campaign. So same as before, we'll use the tag personalization variable, same thing as before. Same as before, we will use the profile URL, and here we will use the profile URL from the last message step. So basically, we will use the profile URL from the send a LinkedIn message. We only want to send a LinkedIn message to the people who have reached the first follow-up. Okay, or alternatively, what you can do also, you can use the profile URL from the connection check. Okay, so if you want, let's say you have a special type of campaign, you want to send the follow-up, then you can use that. But I prefer to always use the profile URL from the last step. Okay, so here we will pick the profile URL from the people who have received the first greeting message, first follow-up message. Then after that, we will wait a 3 day. In my example, I will run it, so I will use 5 minutes again. And then at the very end of the campaign, what you will do, this is where we will build our dashboard. We will check last and second time who has connected with us, to check the profile who have connected with us after the 7-day delays. Because again, there is two crucial points that many people do not understand, and I'm enforcing them again and again and again and again, because they build flow, but they don't realize how people act in the real world. So in the real world, people will wait 5-7 days or more before replying back to you. They don't check LinkedIn every day, except in certain industry or depending of the ICP that you are targeting to in LinkedIn. But most people won't check before 5 or 7 days and even above. So the first check that we are doing is only to check the people who have accepted the connection request after 7 days. But sadly, as in real life, also many people won't reply back to you and accept the connection. And these people, you have to check back maybe again a second and last time at the very end of the campaign, the profile who didn't enrolled in that second step of the campaign after the check, but we may accept. So there are people who will accept your connection request after the 7 days delay that you put initially. So here we want to track them, and we will arbitrarily choose the end of the campaign as the final reporting date, and we will use that second check to build our dashboard. So here we will check again, so do a last final check to check who has connected within the duration of the campaign. And for this, we will use the profile URL, but this time, listen carefully. We will not use the last profile URL from the last automation in the list. We will use the profile variable from the people who send a connection request at the very beginning. Why? Because we want to have an overview, global overview, and comparing all the profile we enrolled and comparing with from the list who has connected with us in total. So here I don't want to compare who has received a single message with the total connection request I want to monitor. I want to make the comparison of who has entered the campaign and who has finished the campaign. Okay, so I want to measure in total with the total data that I have. So what I will compare the totality of this list, which correspond to all the people I sent a connection request initially. So for this, we will not use for this final check the last one here, not this one, not this one on the list, the second message. So basically, to explain how the model works, also many people do not understand. Here, you design from start to finish, top to bottom, okay? But when you are picking variables, it's opposite order. So here, the top is actually at the bottom. So here is the beginning of your campaign. Then this is the connection request. Then this is the third step. Then this is the fourth step. This is the fifth step. So the most recent one is there. The beginning is there. So this is opposite. Okay. So what we will do again, we will take the profile URL variable from that step, from the initial step, and not the last one. So this is very important to understand that. Otherwise, your metrics will be screwed. And then finally, we will build our dashboard. So here, what we will do, we will use the same sheet URL. So basically, this is the same Google Sheet URL here that we use here at the beginning, and then this is the same sheet URL that we use at the end. But here we will specify the tab name. So this is very important also. A lot of people are missing this. You need to put the exact same name of the tab that you are using. So if this is output 1, you have to put output 1. Otherwise, it won't work. You need really to use the same exact, even to the capitalization, you know, that you use. It needs to be the same name exactly with the same name of character. Otherwise, you won't push data to the sheet. So we will use the same Google Sheet, the same workbook URL, but this time we will target the second tab where we will push the data. Okay, we'll output the data. So you have to specify the name of the tab, which is that name. I repeat again, really important. Okay, so here you will connect your account, which you created the Google Sheet on. So in my case, this is my Texao account. Then after that, I will map the data. So here you will add column. You can create additional column, like you see. You can delete column, etc., etc. So basically here you will add multiple columns, and what we will do here, for the first column, we will first create the headers, okay? And the headers are basically derived from the variable that you will use. So here you will map and pick all the variables that we collected, the output variable that we collected all along the campaign, and use it as a dashboard. So yeah, I will first um, put all the list of the profile that enrolled in my automation. So here I will start at the beginning. I will put the profile URL of all the people I send a connection request to. Okay, I have all the list. Then after that, I will use the sent message variable here, which you have the little triangle to expand all the list. So use that. Not very user friendly, I know, but I explain to you. It will change after that. And then you will use the sent message variable. So basically, the sent message, it will be a copy of the message you sent to that person. So you will be able to see on your Google Sheet the copy of the message you sent. So you know, okay, I sent this message to that person. Then after that, I will use the timestamp, very important, with the date and hour where the connection has been sent by Texo. Very important. So you will have the date where the connection has been sent. Also, do not confuse the timestamp of the connection you sent with the timestamp of the date the profile actually accepted it. It's two different things. You know, the timestamp where you send the connection, obviously, is not the same timestamp of the date when the profile will approve your connection. All right, so this is important to understand that. And after that, we will, so we have the profile URL we enroll, the sent message of the connection request, the timestamp of the connection request. After that, we will use the same for the first follow-up message. So here, basically, we will use the profile URL, not the profile URL, the sent message content. We will use the timestamp content of the first message. So here it will be the timestamp, the date we sent the first follow-up, only on the profile who accepted our connection again. So it will be less people. Then after that, we'll do exactly the same for the second and last follow-up message, which is adding the sent message content of the message, and then the timestamp of that message. Then at the very end, we will use not the first check that has been used to wipe out the unwanted profile that didn't connect with it. Don't use that. We will use finally the last check. Why? Because again, I repeat again, some people may connect with you after the 7-day delays. So you may want to know who has connected with you at that moment. So what you could do also a different stuff. So what you could do actually, you could put. We can do that. We will do that. Actually, put the information for each check. So here I can put first check. Okay, first check. First check passed. Okay, and then we will output on the first check. You want to have an idea of who are connected with you. So here we will use the profile URL of the first check, or you can use this as condition, but we'll use the profile URL. So here it will output the profile who have connected with you at the first check, okay? And then after that, what you can do, you can use second check, okay? Second check fast, to have an overview of the totality of the profile who connected with you at the end of the campaign. And this time, you will use the profile URL here. So basically, it will print to the sheet the profile URL that have accepted your connection at the two stage. And if this is empty, that means that the profile didn't connected with you, and we will verify that. Okay. So additionally, what you can do also, you can use another thing for the first check. What you can do, you can put the first check connected, for instance, like who was connected with you, and it will output connected is true. So here we will check the first check. So here the first check, that's the first one, it will be connected. And if you have the message is true printed on the Google Sheet, then it will be sent to the Google Sheet, and you will know, okay, if it's true, that means the profile connected with me. Then after that, I'm doing the same for the second check again, and then I will launch the automation. So you can have and build some kind of dashboard. I know this is not user friendly like the Figma board I showed you. We are perfectly aware of this, and this is something we will implement in the second version of Texao. So this will be radically different, and I know this is a big pain for most people. But again, you have to check the historics, okay, of the company. And after all, it was modeled after Phantom Buster first, and then we are trying to build a more outreach friendly tool. But you can still do that. Then for the second check, I will use the profile URL. So second check passed, and then second check connected. Okay, just to have the condition was connected with us is true or is false. So actually, you could use pending here, which is the inverse. So basically, if pending is true, that means the opposite of connected is false. But this is the same one. So here I will use connected. Anyway, so here you have all your columns, column A, B, C, D, etc. You have all the variable maps. Now you will push the header. So you have connected your sheet and put the right tab name. Everything is okay. You update the headers. You click update the headers. It will push the headers to the sheet. I didn't add before. I just push the headings here. And then the data will be written below that. So last word also, a thing that I didn't added. I usually prefer to do it by in a separate automation, which is withdraw connection request. So we have actually a module that is called withdraw connection request that you can use to withdraw all the people, because LinkedIn is limiting the number of total pending connection that people do not approve yet. And if the number of pending connection is too high, you will face limitation by LinkedIn. So you have to really be careful, and every 2 weeks or every month, withdraw all the pending connection to closer to zero. But I prefer to use it separately. This is a personal choice from experience. Okay, so I don't use that in my flow. So now we are all good to go. We have mapped the Google Sheet. So now I will send with my own personal account a connection request to this one. Here I will use, obviously I'm in the cloud. You're on the cloud. Use a proxy. Okay. And I will use my own personal account. Okay. And then I will, for some, I will show you. I will post the video. For some, I will accept the connection. For some, I will not. For some, I will reply to the first message. For others, I will not. And you will see the difference, okay, with reply detection and so on. So let's go. Pausing the video and then coming back to you just after that. So, quick video for you, second part. So now we will check who has connected with us or not. So we have the final dashboard here. So in this case, I will check profile by profile. So here you can see all the steps that we had in our recipe. So basically, we have the first stage of the connection request, which is the connection request message and date. Then actually you can color it. So what you could do to have better visibility, you could do, I don't know, something like that. Something like that, and coloring, like all the steps. So this is the first step. Then this is the second step, okay? Here, second step. Then second follow-up message, okay? And then here we have the first check and last check, like we mapped on the Google Sheet. So here, first step, and then last check to check the profile we have connected after the 7-day delay, okay? So here you can see all the different stages. So First stage is connection request. Second stage is first follow-up. Second stage is second follow-up. And then you can see the first check, the people who would check and approve the connection request within 7 days delay. And twos on the second check here, who approve the connection request after the 7 days, okay, at the end of the campaign. So now we will verify that. So the first thing we will do, we will check this. So here, actually, we have missing information because actually the message was sent. So if I'm checking, for instance, this profile, so I will open it. This is Irina. Here, I'm checking this profile, and you will see that the message has been sent. And here you have the message, and what's happening if it's empty? Here, okay. So here it's because she didn't accept. She didn't accept my connection. So here it's rational. But there are other profile which I really connected with them. This one, for instance, Isabel. I know that I connected with them, as you can see. So here you will see that I connected with her. So you have the message. I sent her the message, but why it's not reflecting here? The reason is because, you know, when you are sending a connection request, I don't know if I have some pending connection here, but when you have a pending connection, basically it didn't load the chat message, because when we will check the message and send that message to the Google Sheet, that means that the prospect should have opened the connection, the chat box. You know, when you have pending connection, I don't know if I have one to show you. Maybe on my account, I will show you on my own LinkedIn account. So here on my own LinkedIn account, you will see here. You see this message. I have the preview, but since didn't accepted, if I am accepting the connection request, you see there is this chat box at the bottom, but I have to open it and click on it. And if I didn't click on it, it won't be available in my chat thread messaging. And that's the reason why in the dashboard, for some, you effectively send the connection, but you don't see the message. So there is not anything we can do at this stage. In the real world condition, if it was a long-term campaign, most of the profile would have actually opened the chat box, you know. So in this case, this is because we did a very short test, and in my test, actually, I just approved the connection without checking the open message at the bottom, you know, when you have the notification, because I have to open and click at the bottom to load the first chat thread, and that way this message will be able to be pasted on the sheet. So this is not a bug per se, but it's just LinkedIn and how it works, okay? But still, I did connect with most of them. And here you can see the few profile that I sent the first message. So for instance, there's ones I sent the first message and there's one not. Here, why? Because actually this profile, and this profile, for instance, I did not approve the connection request before the 7-day delay. So basically what happened is that I approved their connection after, and you can see it here. Here it's empty. She didn't accept my connection, and here she accepted it finally, but she accepted it after the 7-day delay, at the second check only, as the second checkpoint, not the first one. And this is illustrated here, okay? Here is the same one. The difference is that the profile didn't accept my connection, and you can see it here. So here you can see I didn't accept the connection. This was Irina, okay? Irina, my profile here, and Lady HR, okay? And you can see it here. So here, the profile was this one, not this one. This one here, it was just here, false. It was false, and it was Lady HR. So she didn't was checked at the first check because she didn't accept the connection, and then at the last check she didn't accept it either. So here I have the final result, which is not checked. She didn't check the connection all along the campaign. Okay. And here the second message. So here on few messages, like this one, for instance, it was on that profile. So it was this profile, for instance, Laura. Yeah, I have a lot of fake profile, I know, but this is for testing purposes again. So here, this profile, I open, so I send the connection request, and then I didn't replied, and then I sent her the two follow up message. So here, as you can see, she effectively received the two follow up. Okay, so this was for this one, but other ones like this one, they didn't receive the second message. Why? Because I replied in between. So it was Adriana. So I will check Adriana profile. This is this one. So Adriana profile. So here you will see that I did reply just after the connection. So basically, I sent the connection request message. She approved it within 7 days, but I replied in between. She replied, sorry, here she replied just after the first follow-up. So naturally, I had reply detection enabled. I had reply detection, as you can see here at the second one. I had also reply detection and reply detection here. So anyone who replies before 7 days, so let's say at the day number 3, she accepts the connection, she replies back to me, this one won't be sent. She accepts the connection, she didn't reply, she will receive the first message. If she replies in between the first follow-up and second, naturally the reply detection will kick in, and then, like you can see, she won't receive the second follow-up. And this is what happened here. Here it's the same. So here it was different. She didn't reply, but let's say this one, for example, this one, she connected, she received the first message. Okay, it was Linda, and Linda, as you can see, this is, I have so much profile. Linda here. So Linda, it was the same thing. Linda replied to me. So here you can see, I sent the connection request. I sent the first follow-up. She replied before the second follow-up. Naturally, she won't receive the second follow-up. You see? So this is pretty rational. And here you will see all the profile we checked the first step. And here you will have the final outcome of at the end of the campaign on the second and last check. Okay? Easy. So this is pretty rational. Again, the difficulty often is that many people, like I said, often don't really understand what's happening, because like it's some kind of abstract, and you have to check the logs from time to time to check what's happening there. Okay, so and you can verify it actually in the logs at every stage. So if the profile reply in between, then naturally you won't see it. Okay, so this is how you can create a small dashboard with the different steps: first step connection, second step first follow-ups, second step second follow-up, first check after the connection request, and then last check and final check at the end of the campaign. So this is how you can do. This is not perfect. Again, the final goal is this. There is a lot going on, guys. Lot going on. I cannot show you. There is a lot of slide here, but the final goal is to do this. So to have all your accounts, social accounts, with a global dashboard where you can have daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, stats. And same when you click on an account, then you will have all the stats. But this is in the next 6 months, hopefully. Lots of things going on. But I'm superstitious and I won't talk more about it. But this is the final goal. The goal is to have the analytics in app. And the difference is that we will log everything from the day one you had your account in Texo. We will monitor all the notification and to have a global reporting, at the profile level, etc. But this is a big task. So for now, this is how you can do. And again, and it works. So you can have multiple dashboard. If I wanted to, I could have different Google Sheets. So let's say you want to substitute that. You could have replaced this by a LinkedIn search or a group search or Sales Navigator search. This is the same logic, but there are few limitations. I will report you to the documentation. I will add it in the post, actually. There are a few limitations in this, but basically, for most of it, you can create a dashboard for this, and it can also send to different Google Sheets. I could have used a Google Sheet here for different purpose or whatever, but so far, this is how you can do a proper dashboard, and that does the work. So at the end of the day, at the end of the campaign, you know, true or false, who has connected with you or not. You know who has received the second message, the first message or not. The only issue is this one, like I explained, because the profile didn't load the chat message. Like when you accept a connection request, you will have a notification on the chat box. And if you don't open the chat box, Texao won't be able to see the message. You know what I mean? So if it's empty, that doesn't mean that they didn't reply the connection. The only thing you have to check is this, and this. If it check the connection, and after that, you can effectively see here it's empty. But if you check on this row, it was this profile. She actually received, Linda. She received my message. So this is the only difficulty that you have to take into account here. Okay. So I hope this is clear. And I see you in the next video. And again, for all people that are following us, I know this is kind of crazy time. You have lots of Ukrainian customer, and all my thoughts goes to you. So be courageous. Again, we're all with you. And this is crazy, like really a crazy world. So please take care of yourself, and hoping for the best.